Hi, my name is John.
And my name is Lloyd.
And we're the hosts of The Pint,
a pop culture podcast.
Lloyd, if you had to tell any of the people out there that might be listening to The Pint for the first time about anything unsavory or disconcerting we might do on the show, what would you warn them about?
Well, sometimes we drop spoilers, and sometimes we swear like motherfucking sailors.
Fuck yeah, we do. You heard it from him. You've been warned.
Listen in.
You, best of all of us, Gabriel, should understand. Ambition.
Son of perdition. Little horn. Most unclean.
I do miss the old name.
Welcome to a brand new episode of The Pint. My name is John.
And I am Laura.
We're going to talk about a movie from 2005. We're going to talk about Constantine. Let's do this.
Come on! Let's do this together!
All right, so Constantine was directed by a guy named Francis Lawrence. He directed I Am Legend with Will Smith. Only saw it once. Have you ever seen that, Laura?
I've seen the ending of it. I feel like I, at some point, had seen that whole movie, but I only kind of vaguely remember the ending. I don't know. It just never really captured my interest.
Spoiler alert for a probably 15-year-old movie, but he has to kill his dog at one point, and I can't. I just can't
that's
do it.
The only thing I remember about that movie is because that's at the end, right?
No, like halfway through. About.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Maybe I don't know anything about the movie at all. Then.
Here, let me clue you into something about the movie. He kills his dog.
Okay.
Yeah, I just can't do that. He also directed Red Sparrow, which I think is like a Jennifer Lawrence, Black Widow-y type movie about some kind of...
It's like a Russian spy movie. I have watched that movie, and again, I can't tell you anything about it. It bored me to tears. I remember just not liking it at all, just getting through that movie and only watching it because I didn't feel like getting off of the couch.
I understand that.
So,
I understand that. To continue his Jennifer Lawrence I guess working relationship, he also directed the final 4 out of 5 Hunger Games films. So he did not direct the first one. He directed the 3 sequels starring her, and then there was a prequel that came out earlier last year, I think. He directed that. I did not mention, as I always do, that the Constantine film came out on February 18th of 2005. The writer of this film, a few different ones, Kevin Broadbent, was the story writer and one of the co-screenplay writers. He had done The Glimmer Man with Steven Seagal. He did Mindhunters, not the show Mindhunter on Netflix that everybody loves, which is a great show, but it was a film with Val Kilmer. And he wrote an original Netflix film called The Siege of Jadatville, which I've never heard of.
I haven't heard of that either.
No. His co-screenplay writer is a guy named Frank Capello. He wrote Suburban Commando, which I've never seen, but I know is a Hulk Hogan movie. I'm sure you've seen that.
I actually haven't. I've heard a lot about it because Vinny's a big fan of all the Hulk Hogan movies.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I can see that. And then he also directed and wrote a film called No Way Back and another one called He Was a Quiet Man starring Christian Slater. Let's get into it because John Constantine is a Vertigo/DC comic character, so it's only fair to credit the creators of the character as well. John Constantine was created by Alan Moore, who you might know as the writer of, he wrote Swamp Thing for a while, V for Vendetta, famously Watchmen. He is also a professional comic book writing weirdo, possibly wizard.
He's definitely a wizard. Yeah.
Definitely a weird fucking dude.
Yeah.
And also created by the artist Steve Bissette. John Constantine was created by these guys in Swamp Thing Volume 2, number 37. Steve Bissette drew John Constantine in the comics to look like Sting the musician Sting. This is obviously not what we get. He's
No, not at all.
Also a British character. Steve Bissett, something I just want to point out real quick. When Sir John and I had finished with our original podcast From the Hip, and before we created Pint of Comics, we went to Bing Comic Con in Springfield, Massachusetts, and Steve Bissett lives in Vermont and used to do that comic book show. And we interviewed him and put it out, I think, on From the Hip at the very end of the run. An incredible dude. He's super nice, and I've been Facebook friends with him for years. He's one of my like most interesting Facebook friends because he is the definition of like cult cinema, fucking expert. He's an incredible comic artist. He's just an all around awesome guy. So he is one of the creators, John Constantine. The original first volume of Constantine's book, which was called Hellblazer, ran from 1988 to 2013. It ran exactly 300 issues. It was originally called Hellblazer. Then it was called John Constantine Hellblazer for a while. I think around the time of the movie, they wanted to kind of, give it that like push, like probably
integrate it. Yeah. So people like knew like, oh, this is what that is. Yeah.
Even though that book is about a very British occult magician in London. And this movie was adapted to be in California with a very non-British Los Angelino protagonist who isn't really a magician. He's more of an exorcist, I guess, in this film, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Hellblazer, interesting trivia, which I know we've talked about here before at some point. When issue 1 was originally scheduled to come out in 88, it was originally called Hellraiser. The movie came out the same year that they were creating the book, and the editors at DC decided we're going to change our name to not like have any confusion or possible lawsuits. So Hellraiser became Hellblazer. I think Hellblazer is a great name. I think it would have been better.
I like Hellraiser better, actually.
Hellraiser's great.
I feel like for the movie, Hellraiser works really. I mean, I guess Hellblazer works well too, but I mean, he's like, I guess he's not raising hell. I don't know. Maybe I'm just predisposed to like Hellraiser.
It's got the word Hellraiser in it. It's just cool no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's cool no matter what. This was filmed between October 3rd and February 4th. It was filmed in California, Eagle Mountain, LA, Compton. Some of it was filmed in Compton.
Oh.
They all got out alive.
They did.
And then at the WB Studios in Burbank, stage 15, 16, 19, 20, and 21. So, all right, let's get into the cast of this thing.
Okay.
Bring me everyone.
What do you mean, everyone?
If I'm talking a little bit more deliberately than normal to any of you listeners out there, I bit the fuck out of my tongue yesterday, and it just fucking hurts. And when I talk too fast or say certain words, it just fucking hits the wrong spot. So that, if you notice, if you're like, John's talking kind of slow today. Yeah, you all done it. Laura, you've bitten your tongue and it's just like days, right? It's like, it's the slowest.
Yeah. Constantly.
It's the slowest.
Big fat stupid tongue that's always getting stuck in my teeth are also kind of weirdly sharp. So, I
have a broken tooth in the back, like just one that has like a chip out of it, and it's like a razor blade on my fucking tongue. Yeah. So I should probably find out if they have people out there that take care of tooth injuries and fix them, or I think they might have professionals.
I think I've heard about that profession.
Yeah.
They fix teeth, they make sure you take care of them.
Yeah.
They give you a free toothbrush afterwards.
My favorite.
The only reason to go.
Yeah, the only reason. Yeah, just the free toothbrush at the end. All right, so this cast features Keanu Reeves as John Constantine, playing his 58th John character besides John Wick and Johnny Mnemonic. You know Keanu Reeves from the Bill and Ted films. You know him from The Replacements. And I wrote here too, Johnny Mnemonic. So we mentioned that again. Rachel Weisz plays a dual role of Angela and Isabel Dodson, twin sisters. You may know her from Marvel's, the MCU's Black Widow. She was in the Mummy films, of course, the first two. And she starred last year in 2023 in a television series, miniseries remake of David Cronenberg's Dead Ringers, where she plays the twin roles in that as well.
Oh yeah, that's her second twin
Yeah.
acting.
Yeah.
I didn't even put that together.
I have not seen Constantine in a while, and I will tell you right now that Rachel Weisz is all-time hot in this movie. Like, good God, Jesus Christ, God damn it. This was a good-looking woman.
And she still looks almost exactly the same, right?
Yeah, she in Black Widow, she was like, clearly, it's 15 years after this, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah. Her and Keanu Reeves, maybe something happened on the set of Constantine, like some religious or divine intervention gave them this eternal youth, and oh, geez.
They're vampires. That's probably what it is.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense too, yeah.
Next up, very young Shia LaBeouf plays Chaz Kramer. Chaz is a character from the Hellblazer comics. He is not a kid. He's an adult. They kind of tried to give Constantine his own short round in this film. Shia from Transformers 1 through 3, Fury, which was a good movie.
Oh, yeah, Holes. Fury was really good.
Yeah, Fury is great. And Holes, the Disney film from early 2000s. And also, I mean, let's just be honest, he seems like a colossal douchebag. I don't know, man. Yeah.
No, everything, like, I haven't heard anything about him, like, in the past few years, I think, but there was that stretch of time where he was just really trying to annoy everybody.
Yeah.
And be very, like, disruptive. Like, wasn't he wearing a bag on his head and, like, going to go see his movies and booing them or something? And I don't know.
Yeah, he got caught. I would tell people out there who are listening to look into this because it's kind of long to talk about, but he got caught years ago plagiarizing one comic book artist and writer's works like 2 times. Like it's kind of lesser known about with all of his antics, but he got caught twice doing it, and like word for word, like craziness. So yeah, if you want to look into that, look up Shia LaBeouf plagiarism, and it's fucking nuts that he thought he'd get away with it. But yeah,
especially in this day and age, it's like everything is just at your fingertips all the time. You can Google anything, you can check anything. Like, I don't understand how people think they could get away with something like that. That's just crazy to me. But he also is kind of crazy. So
yeah. I'm Shia LaBeouf, and I could take your shit. Tilda Swinton plays Gabriel. Tilda Swinton, you may know from Doctor Strange, from the Suspiria remake from a few years ago. Michael Clayton. Tilda Swinton in this film, so she's got the reputation as kind of being like almost like David Bowie-ish with the, is she or is androgyny, right?
Yeah,
like,
the whole androgyny of the thing, yeah.
Every time you see her, you're like, okay, she's never the same person twice. I don't normally feel this way about Tilda Swinton, but in this movie, she plays Gabriel, the Archangel.
Yeah.
She really does a number confusing my sexual, my sexual organs and my sexual desire. It's like when like a compass is too close to a magnet or something. It's just shaking. I don't know what's happening. Laura, have you ever felt that way? Where you're like, I don't know what's happening in my body, but like this person is doing things to me.
Yeah, your body is reacting in a way that your brain is not sure why, or your brain is saying one thing but your body is doing something else, and you're like, how do I act on this? I'm not Quentin Tarantino. I have no even remote amount of foot fetish in my entire body. I really don't. But there's a scene at the end of the movie where she's stepping on Keanu Reeves's face with her bare foot, and I was like, what is happening inside of me right now? I can picture that exact scene in my head, right? Maybe it's more of a power thing than a foot thing.
Something was happening, Laura, and I might have to go see someone to talk about it. But yeah,
maybe you can tell the dentist about that when you go see the dentist.
Who are the dentists again? Oh, are those tooth people? Okay, all right.
They'll file down your sharp teeth for you.
Thank you. That's an 1800s dentist. Back then, it's like, well, we filed it down round.
You make little nubs out of them.
We made it a nub, so I ain't gonna hurt that big fat tongue of yours no more. All right. Pruitt Taylor Vince, who you might know mostly as the actor with the shaking eyeballs, right? He has an actual real degenerative disease where his eyeballs kind of move all the time. He plays Father Hennessy. You probably know him from, we did Angel Heart not too long ago, and he was in that as a young man. He was skinny. There was a skinny, we talked about it on the show, there was a skinny and a fat cop, and Pruitt Taylor Vince was the skinny cop. That's how long ago it was.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He was in, he's going to be Pa Kent in James Gunn's Superman in 2025. Just hired like last week for that. Yeah. And he was in a horror film that I saw not too long ago called The Devil's Candy.
Yeah, I've seen that one too.
Ethan Embry, right?
Yeah.
And he plays just a real fucking nut job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the only part I liked about that movie. The rest of that movie was really nothing.
It was short, but it took too long to get to where it was going, right?
Yeah.
Like, do you feel that way? Yeah. Yeah, he was good. He was menacing in that for sure.
He does play a good creepy, like unnerving kind of presence kind of character really well.
And he's a good guy in this, and he's still like kind of creepy in this one too, because he's just he's manic almost in this one. Peter Stormare plays Lucifer, the devil, the morning star. You know who he is. You know him from Fargo. He was in Nacho Libre and Minority Report. We did Minority Report a couple years ago, and his first scene in that movie is him sneezing and then just giant boogers hanging out of his nose. It's pretty fucking awesome.
I haven't seen Minority Report. I typically avoid Tom Cruise movies, so I just haven't really.
If you ask Lloyd and me, it's a good movie. If you ask Stu, it's not. So, last two for the cast. Jaman Hunsu plays Papa Midnight, character from the comics. Deep Rising, Gladiator, the Shazam films that have come out. I like Jaman Hunsu. He always makes everything a little bit better. And he's just a good presence. And then finally, we'll end it off with a person from the rock and roll world. It's Gavin Rossdale as Balthazar. He's from Bush. He's like the main guy in Bush. 16 Stone was their debut album. The Science of Things, and they have a new album coming out in 2024.
Really?
How do you feel? Yeah. How do you feel about Gavin Rossdale? Because I got to be honest, like, I know the Bush, the videos and stuff, and I was never really a big fan. But in this, he's a pretty good-looking fucking guy.
His look definitely fits the character he's playing very well. I'm pretty sure I may have seen this movie once since I saw it in the theaters. So I had completely forgotten he was in the movie. And when he came on screen, I was just like, oh my God, that's Gavin Rossdale.
Gwen Stefani's in the background.
Yeah. But, I mean, he did a lot better than other, rock stars have had when they've been given parts in movies.
Yeah.
He wasn't just like a really stiff, like, presence. He actually he had that kind of like sliminess to him with the slicked back hair and the pinstripe suit. And he did better than I probably, if you had asked me what I thought he would be before I saw it, I would be like, oh no, that's going to be shit. That's going to be terrible. But he did pretty well. I was okay with it. It wasn't that distracting of a part.
Yeah, no, I thought he was good. I actually liked the line he has a lot where, halfway through the movie, skip ahead just a little bit, but Constantine busts into his office and hits him with like that holy flamethrower. He's a demon, and he gets thrown up onto the table, and he just looks at Constantine and he goes, "Fire! I was born of this."
Yeah,
I like that line. Like,
he delivered that really well too. I agree with that.
Like, don't throw fire at a fucking demon or devil.
Yeah, that's what's stupid.
This is our shit. All right, so the film opens up in Mexico, and we have a couple of young Mexican guys digging around in like kind of a field.
It's like a old church, like an abandoned church.
Yeah. Like a raised church. Mm-hmm. And at the very beginning of the movie, we get a little blurb about the Spear of Destiny. The Spear of Destiny is the spear that the Roman soldier pierced the side of Christ with. And, I'm sure at some point in history, Hitler probably was looking for it, and, all these people that love the occult stuff. But they kind of say that, whoever has the Spear of Destiny kind of guides the future of mankind. And as one of these guys is kind of digging, he finds something wrapped up in a cloth, and it's the Spear of Destiny.
It's a Nazi flag, actually.
That's right. It's a swastika. It's a Nazi flag.
Yeah.
So that's probably why my brain was going towards Hitler.
Sorry, yeah.
my brain goes towards Hitler like at least 17 times a day. I'm not going to edit that out. I probably should, but no, I'm just fucking kidding. So yeah, he unrolls it and he has this weird spear. Laura, what happens as soon as he picks this thing up?
He just kind of goes into this trance and he just starts walking away, and then he gets hit by a car.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere. That kind of surprised me. That gave me a little jump. He gets possessed because the car hitting him doesn't really stop him at all. He keeps going.
The car wraps around him and he just walks away from it.
Yeah.
And then he just walks, right? And then we're going to check back in with him through the course of the movie where he is just literally just walking to LA. Little chunks at a time we go back to him and see him, but it's a constant throughout the movie. Now we shift to LA and we're in a apartment or hotel that seems to be largely lived in by Mexican families and Latin families. And there is a mother who's bringing someone in a room food. And when she opens the door, she drops to her knees. And we see that like it's her daughter, but she's Reagan McNeiling it. She's crawling around on the fucking ceiling, and the woman starts to pray. We get introduced to John Constantine. John Constantine is a local exorcist. They bring him in. He has a cigarette habit. I don't know if Keanu Reeves smokes in real life, but I hate movies where to me it looks like the actor doesn't really smoke. And every time he smokes in this movie, it looks like he's never smoked before. Like, I'm
pretty sure Keanu Reeves is a smoker. I think that's like a thing. He's maybe not anymore, but I think there's like been a bunch of like paparazzi photographs of him just like smoking cigarettes and stuff. And
do you agree though that it just seemed like unnatural for him? Maybe I'm wrong.
He's never really like, it's definitely not the worst example I've seen of an actor not knowing how to smoke a cigarette or obviously not being a smoker. Yeah, it doesn't really have like you never see him actually really drawing in like a puff or anything. And
right.
It's just kind of there. You see him lighting the cigarettes most of the time, or he's holding it, or he takes one puff and but there's always a cigarette somewhere in this movie.
John Constantine in the comics is a heavy smoker, and that's like a long running bit in the series. As a matter of fact, I wanted to mention it that if you're interested in this story, if you're listening to this, if you watch the movie and you want to dive into any Hellblazer stuff, Garth Ennis, who is a comic writer who's done many, many, many things, he's the guy that wrote what essentially is the skeleton of this story, where John Constantine is dying of cancer, lung cancer. It was issues 34 through 46 of the first volume of Hellblazer. It's volume 5. If you ever want to check out the trades, it's called Dangerous Habits. So that is where they got that from. So John comes in and he starts to do some little things here and there. He's checking the girl out and he sees something really weird in her stomach. Laura, what does he see?
Well, there's like a face like kind of trying to get out of her stomach. It's almost like translucent a little bit, but you kind of see like it's like somebody's inside of her stomach trying to poke its way out of there.
Yeah, it's fairly gross.
Yeah.
So he knows what it is. He tells people to go and get him a mirror. All the people of the building get this gigantic mirror. Meanwhile, downstairs he has his short round Chaz, who drives him around in a taxi. and also their home base is a bowling alley, right? Like,
he either like lives above the bowling alley or possibly in the back room. Like I thought it was above it, but over the course of the movie, it seemed like they might have. I don't know. He lives in a bowling alley, which is kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. Yeah, you'll never run out of shoes either.
No,
no way. So they get the mirror, they bring it in. They do this thing where they suspend the mirror over the possessed girl. And in the mirror, you can see the demon in the mirror. And what he does is he essentially tricks the demon to jump out of the body, right? Mm-hmm. And he captures it in the mirror. And then, there's things don't go right exactly. They can't get the mirror out of the window. They finally do. The mirror drops. And when it hits the ground 4 or 5 stories below, it explodes. And that apparently kills the demon. We learn the rules of heaven and hell and earth through Constantine, through dialogue, through this movie. So, Laura, tell me if I'm right.
Okay.
Demons and angels cannot come to Earth at all.
Yes, you're correct. Yeah, they are barred from actually entering the human plane or
right.
whatever existence.
But what can come to Earth?
these half breeds. Like, I guess they're half demon, half human. Is
Right.
that what they were? Is that the half and half? That's what
Yeah.
I kind of deduced from it. They were either half demon, half human, or half angel, half human.
Correct.
And they're allowed to exist amongst the humans, and they can't actually make somebody do something, but they can influence.
Yeah, he calls them influencers. They can whisper in your ear and, maybe push you to do something you don't want to do.
That's kind of like influencers of today.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. These ones aren't all over Instagram though.
Yeah, no, thankfully.
So those are kind of the rules. You can't get full angels or demons.
Mm-hmm.
We have the second half of the story now is the Rachel Weisz story, where she plays a cop who is investigating her sister's death. Can you kind of tell me a little bit about the dynamic between the two sisters and what the actual sister's death kind of entailed?
Yeah, so we see that I think we're introduced to the twin sister and see that she is in an insane asylum. I can't think of a better word for that. I'm sure that's not necessarily the word that they call it anymore, but she's been put away for mental problems. And we see her kind of walking off a roof and jumping through a glass skylight. And so, like, she's obviously hospitalized. There's something wrong with her. And and Rachel Weisz comes in and she's just, my sister would never commit suicide. She was a very God-fearing woman. She was very religious. She would never do that because if you kill yourself, you can't get into heaven. And that's kind of the whole thing. Like, she doesn't believe her sister killed herself because of that. Like, they were closer when they were younger, but they've kind of drifted apart because the sister always said that she saw things, and we're not completely sure what that is at first, but that's kind of why we're told that she was in the asylum, because she used to see things.
We learn, we'll jump ahead a little bit. We learn that the sister would tell the parents that the Rachel Weisz character, the Angela character, wasn't vouching for her because she knew that she saw the same things. Mm-hmm. But the Rachel Weisz Angela character, the cop, didn't want to tell the parents that she was going through the same stuff because she just felt like, stifled by the fact that she is also seeing crazy stuff. So she's investigating this murder. And during her investigation of the murder, at one point, she watches a closed circuit TV video of her sister prior to her jumping to her death. And at one point, her sister turns her head, looks at the camera and says, "Constantine." Now, she's had a couple run-ins with Constantine just through the streets of LA where they kind of had like a little bit of like meet cute but rude moments where they don't like you. Like, she definitely doesn't like him.
It seems like the cops are aware of who Constantine is because he seems to pop up right at these different places.
Constantine has some friends that he deals with. As we said, Father Hennessy, the Pruitt Taylor Vince character, is a full-blown priest who apparently can talk to the dead. He can read newspapers by just running his hands over them. That's useful right there, man. It's not Braille either. He runs his hands over it and he hears the words. He also is an alcoholic, which will factor into his fate later. There's another guy named Beeman who is essentially his Q, right? Like, he has a Q where there's a scene where he brings him dragon's breath, which is a flamethrower. He brings him a few different little things here and there. And we start to kind of see that he's operating kind of underground, but he's got a crew of supporters with him as well. She's investigating. She sees that her sister said Constantine, so she goes directly to him. They start to work together to try to figure out her sister's death. And at first, Constantine is not super interested, but then they get attacked by a demon. And he realizes that it was not him they were attacking, it was her. Yeah. So this piques his interest into why are they coming for you? And also, these are full-blown demons. There's actually I think it's a pretty cool scene. The CG is a little 2005, but where he gets attacked by that rodent/insect swarm thing. Yeah,
I think they referred to him as the Vermin Man in things I was reading. Yeah, that was gross.
That was pretty cool, I thought, though.
No, yeah, it was cool, but just, I don't know. I was just thinking all creepy crawlies and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there are crabs in there for some reason too, which was weird.
I wondered about that. I was like, because it starts with crabs. He sees a couple crabs and he's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden there's like all these like, fleas and mites and flies and
And those big
bugs.
centipedes that are disgusting. Like,
Yeah.
ugh.
And
Ugh.
like a snake, all this stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't think about it till you just said it again. But like while I was watching it, I was like, are crabs considered vermin?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I wouldn't group them in that category together. I wouldn't think like, oh, crabs, weird, but
Yeah.
maybe.
Possibly.
I wouldn't eat any of those other things, but I would eat a crab.
Exactly. Crab is the only one that's that would end up in a seafood boil. Like,
Yeah.
no boa constrictor for me tonight. Thanks.
Ugh, no.
I already ate. So they start to work together. They start to try to figure out what is happening. Laura, did you find kind of the plot of the main idea of what's happening is pretty simple, but maybe it was just me. But like, was it a little convoluted figuring out like what they were getting to, like what they were trying to tell us was happening here? Like, it just seemed like it took a while to like really understand what the end game was.
Yeah, no, I agree. It wasn't that I wasn't able to follow the movie, but I was kind of wondering where it was going. And I think they thought that we knew that like most of the time. But towards the end of the movie, when everything kind of gets tied up, I was like, oh, okay, I understand this. But while we're going through the movie, I was just kind of like, what is all of this happening for? Like, what is the reason? But
I also freely admit that I fell asleep watching this at the same spot 3 times and had to watch it over 3 different days. So like, that's very possibly just me. I'll admit that. So at one point when John determines that she's telling the truth, he tells her that he can go and visit hell, and see if her sister's there. So he does this little spell in front of her where he fills up a cooking pot with some water. I thought this was interesting where they go to the dead sister Isabel's apartment and he says, I need something of hers. And there's a cat right there. And he takes the cat. And do you notice what he said? He goes, they're already half in and half out anyway.
Yeah.
Like half in, out of hell. I thought that was great.
Yeah, I completely agree because cats are.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of
Out,
cats.
yeah. No, yeah. I'm not a fan of cats, and cats are not a fan of me. I've never made friends with a cat.
The red hair, you think? You think it's the red hair?
Oh, I'm completely convinced it's my red hair that cats do not like.
Yeah.
Maybe they think I'm from hell.
Yeah. They're like, oh, it's Laura, half in, half out.
Yeah.
We've seen her. So he holds onto the cat and he takes a quick trip to hell. And while he's there, hell, the landscape of hell is essentially our landscape, but just like it had been nuked. And that's what the producer said they wanted to look like. It was the same place that you are, but just like leveled by like nuclear destruction.
It definitely looked like that too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It looked like Terminator 2, like the Judgment Day scenario. Yeah. He walks through and he finds her. And he manages to get a hold of her hospital bracelet and take it back with him when he comes back through the other side. And he's able to confirm that, yes, she did kill herself because I saw her there and here's the proof. And this is kind of the point where he explains his backstory and why he's so afraid to go to hell. Now, we kind of mentioned it earlier, and I will bring this up again. He finds out early in the story that he's dying of lung cancer, and it's like stage 4. He's on his way out the door. He is trying to figure out a way to bargain more time to stay on Earth. He goes to the Archangel Gabriel and says to her, look, back me up with God, however you got to do it. I've been doing your dirty work forever, sending demons to hell. Give me a little bit more time. And she's just straight up rude. She's like, you're fucked. You're fucked.
Yeah. I didn't know angels were allowed to curse.
Oh, yeah. No. So he does explain, though, like his predicament. What happened to him as a kid, Laura?
As a young child, he realized that he could see things. Like we get an example of him on a bus and he sees an old lady with like demon face or something when she turns around. And this is a lot for him as a child. So over the years, it just kind of built up inside of him. So he attempted suicide. He was not successful in that. He was brought back. He was revived or whatever. And because he attempted suicide, he is not allowed into heaven.
Right. Suicides go to hell. He died for 2 minutes. So he technically, did die. Mm-hmm. He makes it a point too, because this is important for later in the movie, that like when you go to hell, time stops. Because that happens a bit later on. So he explains that to Rachel Weisz, and and at this point is when she admits to him that, my sister wasn't the only one that could see these things as well. I did too, but I just suppressed it. And, so he says, I'm going to, send you to go take a look as well. And they have this scene where, he basically says, I have to put you into some water. And, it's a pretty harrowing scene. Because she goes under the water and he holds her down, and she's cool with it at first, not cool with it, but she's like, okay, no big deal. But then as the panic sets in and she's trying to get out of the tub, he just holds her down.
Her eyes are open and just like the bubbles coming out of her nose. And you can just it's almost, you know what that feeling would be like, just not being able to breathe, like to get up above the water. And it's a very suffocating thing, even to just watch. So
yeah, it's like I said, it's pretty harrowing. Like you can see the panic in her face. She does get out, and as she comes out, she's covered in steam like he was before when he came back from hell. Laura, this movie, I want to ask you a question. They never go past the line of maybe some minor flirtation between these two. Was that a relief to you? Because it was a relief to me. I every movie you got to make everybody like a couple, and they didn't do that in this movie.
Yeah, I'm really grateful for that, because that would have taken away from the kind of gloomy atmosphere of the movie. The whole movie, it feels gritty like it should. There's a whole gloom and doom atmosphere to it. I don't really want them to end up together. And I think seeing him kiss her would have taken away from his character.
Right.
Because he doesn't seem like anything would have been added to him to have like them kiss or whatever. Like that would have just been like what the producers might have thought would be good for the audience sake. But I think it really serves the story and the movie well to not have a romantic entanglement actually manifest. Like, okay, fine, there's something, like there's a tension underneath the surface, but I'm glad that we never saw anything come from that.
We actually get a pretty decent humorous moment from him where before he puts her in the tub, she takes her jacket off, and then she says, can I leave my clothes on, or do I have to get undressed? And he doesn't say anything. And she's like, well, and he goes, I'm thinking. Like, because he's thinking everything every guy's thinking, like, yeah, sure, you could take your clothes off.
It's not going to work if you're not naked. So
you've got to be very naked. And here's some ice cubes for your nipples.
Make sure everything is nice and
let's get some protrusions going on here. So she sees and she believes as well, fully, because she has crossed over to the other side. As all this is going on, a couple things that have happened in between. We go to Papa Midnight's club, which is very funnily very much like the Continental in John Wick. Mm-hmm. It's a place where angels, half-breeds, demons, John Constantine, everybody and anybody can go, and you're not allowed to have a beef or, bring out your intermagical fights between each other. It's kind of a neutral ground.
Yeah, no business is allowed.
Business allowed in Papa Midnight's club. Yeah. We also see that Balthazar, the Gavin Rossdale character, uses his influence to kill the Father Hennessy character in a very cool way. Laura, how does Father Hennessy die? Now, we mentioned he's an alcoholic, but how does he die?
He keeps hearing the voices and whatever, and he runs into a convenience store, a bodega or whatever, and he's trying to he keeps opening bottles of liquor or wine or whatever, trying to pour them into his mouth. And we, the audience, see that there is liquid in there and it's moving around, but it's not coming out of these open bottles. And he's like trying to, and like as soon as he puts it down, the alcohol spills out. So like there's nothing wrong with the bottles. And eventually he just like drowns himself in trying to get alcohol into his body.
Yeah.
And it's like oozing out of his mouth at the end. And yeah.
It's oozing out of his mouth, and the clerk is helping him out, and Gavin Rossdale is just drinking a water in the back, and
yeah, very calmly.
He also kills his Q, the Beeman character, at one point because they're having discussion between Constantine and the Angela character about a certain psalm from the Bible, and she's like, there is no psalm whatever in chapter whatever, and he's like, there is in the satanic Bible. So he calls the Beeman character up to translate it, and kind of that's where we get the whole plot of what's going on. But as that happens, also Beeman is also in the bowling alley. He kind of has his office there, and all of a sudden all the machineries, all the lanes start going, and he ends up getting killed as well. Laura, what is the main plot of this whole thing, of who's coming back, how the Spear of Destiny is involved, all of that?
So we find out that it is the son of the devil, Mammon, I think was the name of it. And he is trying to kind of usurp his father, Lucifer, and kind of take over Earth or whatever, all humanity. He's trying to lord over humanity, but he's not able to get out of hell without divine intervention and a very powerful psychic. Those are the two things that he needs. He needs something very holy and divine and a psychic vessel to actually get out of hell. So that's where Rachel Weisz comes in. Like the psychics, her and her twin sister both have the psychic powers. Spear of Destiny has the droplets of like Jesus's blood on it, and that's why it's
So the blood of Christ, the first powerful psychic, which was Isabel, killed herself to avoid this from happening.
Mm-hmm.
But her sister is just as powerful because they're twins, and they also have, they have the same psychic abilities. So that's why everybody's going after the Rachel character. The divine intervention part, we find out eventually who is the divine intervention part of this all, Laura.
Gabriel. It's Tilda Swinton.
Yes, she's evil, that bitch.
Being a bad girl boy.
They are evil, but I would strangely like to suck their toes. I don't know why.
Maybe that's the evil influence. That's
maybe.
Just slowly putting her toes like closer to your lips.
The Archangel Gabriel made me a fucking fetishist. Fuck.
That would be a good title for a weird article that you could submit to Playboy or something.
I will. So we find that out. We find that out because eventually Constantine goes to the building where Balthazar hangs out and kills him. But he pretty much kills him. But before he kills him, he gets him to admit by threatening him with his last rites. Balthazar is a demon, but he's like, I'm going to perform. He starts to perform the last rites on him, which Balthazar believes will send him to heaven.
Yeah.
But at the end, he's like, you can't. You have to ask for what is it, absolution?
Yeah, like I can't just force you into it, and that kind of shows that like maybe the human half of the demons or the half breeds is kind of stupid.
Yeah,
because they don't really they think they're all knowing and all powerful, but they don't understand both sides as much as they think they do.
They think they do.
They don't know the rules. Yeah.
So Rachel Weisz ends up getting kidnapped at this point. Very coolly too, by the way. She gets pulled through like what must be the most walls any building has ever had in the history of the world.
Yeah.
She flies through what seems to be like 4 different buildings, and he chases her, and she ends up going back to this sanitarium or insane asylum where her sister had killed herself. As she ends up landing there, the Spear of Destiny and the Mexican gentleman from the beginning have made their trek across. There's also, and it's not done well because they don't tell you, but there's also like a legion of followers at this point now that just show up for one scene. Like it's all the people that are there, but they're possessed, right? Like they never.
Yeah, they're all the other half breeds. That's what I gathered from other. Yeah, they didn't really explain that well at all. Apparently I was reading some like behind the scenes trivia stuff, and I noticed it when I was watching it, but it didn't register. But Michelle Monaghan,
I read that too.
Yeah, she has one line, like her whole character was cut out of the movie, which apparently like she had a relationship with Constantine, which kind of goes back to I'm glad they did that because getting the romantic aspect out of the movie only helped it. So, but yeah, that wasn't explained to us at all. Like we were just kind of left to figure that out on our own.
Yeah, she shows up and I recognize her too. I'm like, it's Michelle. And I read it afterwards that they cut her out of the movie, but they left her in that one scene because all she says is holy water, right? Like, and that's it. So they're there. Angela's there. The Spear of Destiny's there. Constantine shows up and he's there to rescue her. He takes care of all the half-breeds pretty easily, with the holy water, destroys them all. She gets possessed. Rachel gets possessed and starts to attack him. As she's attacking him, the Shia LaBeouf character Chaz, who throughout the whole movie they've made this little like, kind of like his character storyline is that he just wants to be an exorcist, just like John Constantine. And Constantine will let him drive him around, but won't teach him anything. So we have this big moment where a little bit earlier in the Papa Midnight scene, he kind of says some stuff that really clues Constantine into the fact that this kid's smart and knows what he's doing. And then as Rachel is attacking them possessed, and also very much in like Reagan McNeil makeup, looking like classic possessed, he helps John exorcise her. But just right as he finishes exercising her, what happens to Chaz?
You just see his body kind of being like, if it sounds almost like an invisible Hulk was off to the side, just kind of taking his body and like whacking him against the ceiling and then the floor. And we don't know at this point why that happened or who did that to him, but it kills him just as we like realize like, oh, maybe he would be a good replacement for Constantine, but nope, he died.
As he dies, Constantine realizes that he has to figure out like what just happened. And as I watch this scene of this movie, I can only imagine in like 2004 or 2005, a ton of people got these tattoos because they thought they were awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm starting to think that you would have too, Laura, by your reaction there. But, it's like kind of like he's all wet from fighting her in the pool and everything. And Chaz just gets killed. And he basically uses a spell. He starts like an incantation type of spell where he's like, come into the light. Like he wants to see who did this. He pulls his sleeves down and he's got like sigils on his forearms that are half like of sigil each. And then he does like this dramatic move where he puts his arms in front of him and puts them together. And the light starts to come out in the darkness. And that's where we see it's Gabriel, right? He pulls Gabriel out from her hiding. And she is like wearing, I don't know what the fuck she's wearing, but she's got her full wings and everything. And she's got like this weird white, like jumpsuity belted pant leg thing.
Yeah, it's like weirdly like woven on the sides. Like,
yeah, it's odd.
I didn't know how to describe it. At first I thought maybe like, oh, is that an angel's version of like an asylum outfit or something? Like maybe, I don't know. Yeah, I had the same exact thought and I really never rectified why that was how she was dressed.
Did you watch the post-credit sequence?
Yes, I did. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So at the end, at the post-credits, jumping ahead a bit, Constantine visits Chaz's grave, and Chaz like silently comes out of the grave as an angel and flies up into the air, but he's wearing the same fucking thing.
Yeah, so I guess that is just angel clothes?
Yeah, it's weird. Constantine gets the lowdown from Gabriel, like, why are you doing this? And she's just jealous. She's like, there's like God, I'm here on earth and I was in his light at one point. It's always, whenever it's a God story and anything, it's always about how the angels just want to be around him. Like,
yeah, God's like the coolest guy ever. Like everybody just wants to be close to God.
he must smell so fucking good or something.
Oh, yeah.
Like
he's also probably really sexy too.
He probably is. He probably is. But she's like, I'm just tired of humans. I'm tired of humanity. Like you fuckers, like get all of his like grace and like, I'm superior to you. So he finds this out. She beats the fuck out of Constantine. He's not going to win this fight. So Laura, what does he decide to do? Like, how does he even the odds?
So it was said earlier in the movie that Lucifer, John Wick, oh my God. Constantine's soul is the only one that Lucifer would come up to collect himself because Lucifer really wants his soul because of all of the banishing of the demons that he's done throughout his life. So in order to kind of call Lucifer up, he slits his wrists. So he kills himself again, pretty much.
And as he lays dying, in what I think, like I haven't seen this movie in a bit, but I've always saw it in one of the coolest entrances in movie history. Mm-hmm. We get a long shot of Constantine sitting up against the wall. And then in the foreground of the shot, we just see 2 feet floating towards the ground, but with like sizzling hot black oil dripping off of them.
Yeah, like it looks real sticky and gross. Like
It does.
It's really good. Yeah.
And then as we turn to John Constantine's point of view, it's Peter Stormare as Lucifer in an all white suit.
Yeah.
And he is like, I love this guy. And he in a 5-minute scene steals the movie out from everybody that's been in it so far.
Oh, I completely agree. That like he looks so cool. Like the way you felt about Tilda Swinton's feet is kind of the way I felt about his feet when we saw them like coming down. I was like, oh, that's doing something weird.
Let's say, no, that's even weirder, Laura. Tilda Swinton's feet were kind of dainty. They were like her nails were nice. Her toenails were done nice. His feet are dripping liquid hot magma.
I like sludge. I don't know what to say about that. It did something. I was confused, but I liked it.
Okay. I think we're learning a lot to this episode, and also like maybe moving on with our feelings about things, like really pushing forward.
It's good that we're getting this out of our own heads.
Yeah. So he just comes and he tells him, he's like, and he's doing it in the all-star manner. It's Peter Stormare at his most alien. Like he like at points he's like he reaches in to talk to him and he's like almost sniffing. He's just being ultra weird about it all. You know, and he's like, you're the only one I come for, John. And you know, he's basically like giving him the lowdown of how much he hates him. But then Constantine is like, why don't you look in the other room and see what's going on here? Because what's happening is that Gabriel is bringing your son to Earth, who wants to take over this plane, and, you know, usurp you, as you had said before.
Yeah.
And he does. He goes and takes a look, and his attitude shifts immediately now, right? Now
he's just like, oh, fuck, not this.
Yeah.
This can't happen. Yeah.
So what happens from this point between him and Gabriel?
So he walks into the other room and sees kind of like a frozen, like Gabriel with the Spear of Destiny over Angela's body that has Memon inside of it. Like time starts like in a split second, but he grabs her body away and he's just holding Rachel Weisz's body. Gabriel looks up and she's just kind of like, oh fuck, like like no, this kind of ruins the whole plan. And she's trying to shit talk Lucifer, like saying like, I'm gonna smite you with God's power, and he's just like, you can't do that. Like he's and the whole time, which I thought was really cool, he's holding Rachel Weisz's body, but you see a reflection in the wet puddle on the ground of the demon kind of struggling. So I thought that was really cool.
Does he nobody kills her, but does he cut her wings off? I can't remember how she gets.
Yeah, he kind of blasts her and it burns her wings off. She goes to punch him and she's like, I'm gonna smite you with his love, like referring to God. And when she gets like an inch from his face, her fist stops. Like she doesn't have that power. And he kind of says, he's just like, oh, it looks like God doesn't have your back anymore because you fucked around and found out. Like,
right.
So so he's able to strip her, Gabriel, of their wings. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's kind of like a secondary thought now. And he now is holding on to the Rachel Weisz character. And he, at this point, just immediately like just blasts his son back to hell. Like it's like the whole plot of the movie is an afterthought now because he's like, go back. And we see him like get swallowed up by hell. I'll deal with you later. So now he goes back over to Constantine, and now Constantine kind of has like more to say to him, more of maybe an offer. What's that all about, Laura?
He wants Isabel, the twin sister, since she's in hell, he wants her soul to be sent to heaven. Because like the devil offers him like, okay, like I'll let you live because you helped me out with this. But he's like, no, don't let me live. You can take my soul. Just send Isabel's soul to heaven, which is a nice sacrifice. It's a very nice thing for him to offer.
So Lucifer does so, and like it's just like with magic, he's like done. So as soon as that happens, Constantine dies, and he starts to ascend to heaven because he made the ultimate sacrifice which trumps the suicide.
Mhm.
I think they talked about that a little bit earlier, that there was really no way out unless you know, maybe like, did something like a high level.
Yeah, because he was killing all these demons, but he was doing it to absolve himself. Like
Right.
he was doing it so he could win his way back into heaven.
One of the best lines in the movie is when he's talking to Gabriel early on, and she's kind of saying that to him, like, you're just selfish. And he says something about, I believe. And she's like, no, John, you don't believe, you know. Like, there's a difference between knowing and believing. So he does. He ends up he's getting pulled up to heaven. And as he's getting pulled away, you know, he's given the finger to Lucifer. And then the next thing you know, he gets sucked back down because Lucifer has buried his fingers into his body and is pulling the cancer out of his fucking lungs.
Yeah.
He's, I mean, as painful as it could be figured, it's looking, and he's just telling him, he's like, you're gonna live until I can get my hands on you again. I'm gonna give you a whole life of the ability to fuck up enough that you will come to me.
He thinks he can, like, the longer he lives, he's going to prove that he belongs in hell instead of heaven.
Right. So I'm giving you a fresh start, a very fresh start. And he pulls his hands out of his body, and it's just more of that black goo. You know, it's supposed to be the cancer, but it's like steaming and everything.
Yeah.
And then he's just like, that's it. He's gone. And we get a final scene of Angela and Constantine on a rooftop talking. He gives her the Spear of Destiny and tells her, you know, you need to go hide this because I can't even know where this is. So they understand each other. The very final scene of the movie. When this movie came out in 2005, I was very, skeptical of it because I love Hellblazer, and they adapted it totally wrong. It's not a British guy. It's not, they did everything differently.
Yeah.
And I'll rate the movie later, and I'll say it later, but I think as far as an adaptation of something that they got wrong, it still has its merits as a movie. But at the end of the Dangerous Habits story arc in the comics, when the very same thing happens to Constantine, he puts a cigarette in his mouth and lights it again because he doesn't learn and because he's just that character.
Yeah.
This movie ends with him putting a piece of gum in his mouth.
Yeah.
And I always hated that. I always hated that.
Like, I didn't know that that's how the comic story ended for that. But even I thought, I was just like, I don't think that's what he would be doing. That's not the character we've come to know. Like, did he change who he was over the course of this movie? Like, I guess, yeah, but it kind of would have been a little bit cooler if he lit up a cigarette at the end of that.
Yeah. Yeah, I can only imagine that probably somebody at corporate had said, we can't have him smoking anymore. If we're going to make, because again, weirdly, and we'll talk about what this movie did, this didn't become a series. Like, they just this year, I think, announced that he's going to do another one. But it says that it's in production already. I don't know how correct that is or how into production it is, but yeah, that's almost 20 years. Yeah. Almost 20 years. And this, this could have been a viable series, but it didn't happen. So, all right, let's talk about the box office of this thing.
Show me the money.
Just looking good, but I think I'm taking too long.
Back to the spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knock.
$100 million budget for this movie, which is insane. Wow. There are some special effects and there are some set pieces, but $100 million. This thing in the end did $75 million domestically, so maybe that's why we didn't see another one, because in America, people didn't care as much. But internationally, it did $155 million. And remember, as I said, John Constantine, even though it's an American comic company, he's a British character, so maybe he's more popular overseas. $231 million worldwide. For the weekend of February 18th to the 20th, here are the 5 movies that were in the top 5. Number 5, it was out for 10 weeks at that point, made $6.8 million. $1 Million Baby.
I have never seen that movie still.
Okay. All right. Here's my assignment to you.
Okay.
Watch $1 Million Baby, which is a good movie. I've only seen it once ever.
Yeah.
And tell me if you could remember the last time you've ever seen a movie take such a fucking turn at the end. That's all.
Well, I know the ending. Like, I know that. Yeah.
It's insane. It's
Yeah.
fucking insane.
But I don't know the build. Like, that's the only thing I know about the movie. Is
Okay.
how it ends. Yeah.
Watch it. It's a good movie.
Okay.
It's a good movie. Number 4, a movie that I've never seen, but I can only say I've only heard is not a good movie. It opened that weekend, $7.7 million. Jamie Kennedy is Son of the Mask.
Oh, I completely forgot about that movie. I haven't
Yeah.
seen that one either. Yeah, Jamie
Yeah.
Kennedy's fucking awful. I don't
Yeah,
care
he's not
about him.
great.
Yeah.
He's not great. I had to look this one up. It's a family movie. It does not ring a bell. Number 3, opened that weekend, $10.2 million because of Winn-Dixie. It's apparently a family dog movie.
Yeah, I can kind of picture the movie poster for that in my head too.
Yeah,
I never saw that one
ever heard of
either.
it. Opening at number 2, it made $29.7 million. Constantine did not open at number 1. Did not open at number 1 because number 1 that week for the second week, it had been out for 2 weeks. $31.3 million. It's Will Smith as Hitch.
Oh, geez. It's kind of funny. Except for Constantine, I hadn't seen any of those other 4 movies.
Really?
And this was a time in my life, was 2005. I had just graduated high school. I was in my first year of college. Like, I was watching a shit ton of movies and I was going to the movies a lot. But it's kind of funny that out of those 5, I had only seen this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, hey, so in February, it's not a good time for movies. So
Yeah, I guess so. But
they don't put out the real winners in February.
yeah, they really kind of slap together some bad ones.
All right, let's rate this fucking thing.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
0 to 5, 0 being the worst thing ever, 5 being the best thing ever, quarter and half scale optional. Laura, what do you give 2005's Constantine?
I'm gonna give it 3.75.
Okay.
Like I said earlier, I'm pretty sure I may have seen it once since I saw it in the movie theaters. So a lot of it kind of fell out of my head. I went into this not knowing if I was going to like it or not. I remember not being super into it when I had seen it originally, but no, like I thought it was fun. I really like exorcism kind of movies and like evil, demonic, religious kind of themes in movies. Like, I'm not a religious person at all, but I don't know, like that kind of atmosphere just wins me over.
Right.
And Keanu Reeves is always fun to watch. And like the Peter Stormare, just like his 5 minutes on screen just kind of makes everything just really great. And it's a gritty, dark movie. And no, yeah, it was good. I liked it. I would watch it again in maybe like 5 years.
All right. 5 years from now, we'll touch back on this.
We'll come, yeah.
Episode 702.
Laura watches Constantine again.
All right. I will go with a 3.0 on this. I think, as I was kind of alluding to before, I loved Hellblazer. When I first got back into comics in 2000, after having been away from them for a few years, so I was in my early 20s, someone had told me you should check out these Hellblazer books, and I started reading the trades, and the stories are just they're good, they're complex, they're horror. John Constantine's a con man. One of the things that they like kind of did in this movie is like Chaz dies, and in the books, if you're a friend of John Constantine, you're as good as dead because he is just trouble. He's absolute trouble. And I remember being very wary of this film when it was in production and not because it was Keanu Reeves, but like he's not playing a British guy. Well, that's a strike against it because there are certain characters and certain stories that are part of them is their environment. And John Constantine is all about London, all about England, all about, kind of like magic and all that stuff. And, they announced it as, well, he's like a exorcist, like PI almost, like a private investigator. He lives above a bowling alley. He's got a kid that, drives him around. And I remember thinking, ugh. And then I went and saw it and I went, okay, all right. It's like if the name wasn't Constantine, this would be like a decent, just film. It's fine. It's got some good performances. Again, Tilda Swinton is good in this. Peter Stormare fucking kills it.
Yeah.
Keanu Reeves to me, and I'm not even talking about playing John Constantine. Keanu Reeves is a kind of a weak link in this movie, and I like him. I just have a hard time believing him as a like real gritty kind of like dark-ish character. You know?
Yeah, see, like I like Keanu Reeves as like a dark, like gritty character. I think it works well for him. I'm on the opposite end of that spectrum. Like I like him best when he's angry and kind of like gloomy and dark.
Yeah,
like that's my Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, it just doesn't always work for me. Rachel Weisz is good in this.
Yeah,
everybody does their job. The story is interesting. You know, I as well as you, I like the stuff that kind of wraps itself around like the mystical and the magical. But yeah, I would go like this is a solid film. It's a 3. Several years ago, and again, it wasn't a perfect adaptation, but on NBC they did a show called Constantine, but it starred a guy named Matt Ryan, and it was British John Constantine in London, or actually he was from London. It did take place in America though. But he came over. It was maybe 12 episodes. It got canceled, and it was a pretty dark, like 10 o'clock NBC show.
Mm-hmm.
That was a better representation of the comics than this was. Okay. But I still think this is a decent movie on its own. I just think it's a failure as an adaptation. So
I can understand that and appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah, I go 3.0. Laura goes 3.75. So that's it for this episode. My mom passed away last week. I know if you listen to this show, you're probably like, what the actual fuck? I'm going to do everything I can not to have to like have like fucking bad news at any point. And I'm going to keep this episode fairly light. I love my mom. We all have our moms and dads, and I'm sure we all love our moms and dads. So I'm not going to get into like a really long soliloquy about her. She was a wonderful mother. I loved her very much, and she took care of me and raised me right. And things happened, and she got sick, and unfortunately she passed away last week. But yeah, man, at the rate I'm going, if I had to do shit like this on every episode, they'd be 2 hours long. So I'm just going to save all the casual listeners from that. If you're an insider or if you're someone that's like a close friend of mine, you already know this, but Tremors is next week. And I don't know if Laura is going to love the rating I give Tremors. There's a little spoiler for you. I know Laura's a big Tremors fan.
Yeah.
You can find us over on Patreon, Patreon/The Pint. For $2.50 or $4 a month, you get all kinds of extra bonus episodes. Just last month, we did Star Trek Generations for its 30th anniversary. We recently did the Roadhouse remake. We've done a bunch of stuff over there. If you want to find us on Facebook, it's The Pint, a pop culture podcast, as well as Instagram under that same heading. And we would love for you to subscribe and listen and rate. Please rate. Nobody rates. Go on your whatever your podcatcher and give us a 5-star review if you feel that way. If you feel like giving us a 1, give us 1. That's fine. I don't want that. And remember, my mom died last week, so maybe don't give us a 1. Right?
Yeah, you gotta cash that in right now because
I'm going to. I'm going to. So yeah, give us a 5-star review because shit's been bad. Laura, thank you so much for being able to jump in. I do want to say as well, it was lovely. Yesterday was free comic book day. Laura and Vinny and Flynn, Vinny's son, came down and hung out with us for a while, and it was a good time. We did trivia. The Manster was there. We hung out with Sir John. Just a bunch of people came in, said hi. So just want to say, Laura, it was lovely having you guys over yesterday.
We got a lot of stuff. I took Lloyd's t-shirt that he wanted, so
yes,
I'm gonna hold that over him for a while. We got a bunch of good comic books, and yeah, we had a great time. Glad we went.
Awesome. I'm gonna let you say them.
Okay. See ya.
It's over, Johnny. It's over! Nothing is over! Nothing! You just don't turn it off!